Hey Bag Lady, I'm Sarah Lawson from So Sweetness, and today I'm going to show you how to make my Cork Club project for the eyeglass case. Cork Club is a 6-month subscription program, and each month you'll receive 10 unique pieces of cork, each measuring 9 inches by 7 inches. It's enough to snip a little piece for your handy swatch card, as well as I'll show you how to make a project from just one 9-inch by 7-inch piece of cork each month. So this month's project is for the eyeglass case. It comes together really quickly in about 10 minutes, and you can finish it with either a Purl snap closure or with some Velcro. So grab your supplies and let's get started. Okay, first you want to print out the template, and you can find the link to download this template in the description, so just check there first. Okay, so after you have that printed, you want to print it using Adobe Reader. It's a free program if you don't already have it on your device, so you can download it for free, and you always want to print at actual size, so not scaling or fit to page. It's got to be actual size. There's a little 1-inch square on the page, and you want to take your ruler and make sure that that 1-inch square measures exactly 1 inch. It shouldn't be slightly smaller or slightly larger. It should be exactly 1 inch. Okay, so go ahead and take out your scissors, and you're going to cut to the outside of the black line to cut out both of these pattern pieces. Okay, so now you want to pull out your 9-inch by 7-inch piece of cork, and let me show you how to cut out using the pattern pieces. Okay, so first, one method is either to use your rotary cutter and a cutting mat and go along the outer edges of the pattern piece. I prefer just using a fabric marker and then my scissors. So that's how I'm going to cut out the first piece. Since we're leaving this eyeglass case with raw edges, since cork, leather, or vinyl can be cut and left raw, try to be as exact as you can cutting this out. Okay, so I have one more method to show you, and that is using freezer paper. So a lot of quilt shops carry freezer paper. You can also find it at the grocery store. My freezer paper happens to have little squares on it. Most freezer paper is just plain or white, and one side of the freezer paper has sort of a waxy coating. So this is the side that would go against the wrong side of the cork. Normally I don't recommend using an iron on cork, especially on the right side of the fabric. But it's okay to use if you're doing it gently and just for a short period of time. So I'm going to center this on the remaining fabric and just use my iron to iron the waxy coating against the wrong side of the fabric. So because I already drew my remaining pattern piece on the wrong side of the fabric, I'm going to use this as a guide for cutting out the remaining piece of the cork fabric. Okay, so that freezer paper should be temporarily adhered to the fabric, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut directly on top of the line. So instead of transferring the line to the fabric, I'm just cutting directly through the line, and sometimes that helps to be a little bit more exact. So either method is fine, whichever you're more comfortable with. If you'd rather use a rotary cutter and a cutting mat, if you'd rather draw on the wrong side of the fabric with a fabric marker and then use scissors, or if you like using the freezer paper method, it's up to you. Just get one piece cut out from each pattern piece, and then that freezer paper will just peel back. As you can see, that was really easy. And then I've got both of my pattern pieces cut out and ready to go. Okay, now we're going to mark snap placement on both pieces of fabric. So if you'll notice on your templates, there's 2 little dots marked snap placement, and we'll be using that to mark exactly where we're going to install the snap or place the Velcro if you choose to use the Velcro option on either piece. So I have an awl, which is just a pointy tip. I'm just going to make a hole through the paper where the dot is. If you don't have an awl, a seam ripper or the pointy end of some scissors will work just as well. So you just want to make a hole. Okay, so on the larger piece, marked cork back, we're going to mark on the right side of the fabric, and you just want to align the pattern piece so that it fits right on top of the fabric evenly. So I'm just going to use my fabric marker to mark placement. If you have an awl, you could also alternately just punch a hole through the fabric. That'll work as well. Okay, so for this smaller piece, we're going to mark actually on the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and place the paper template on top of the wrong side of the fabric, and again take my fabric marker and mark the placement for the magnetic snap. Okay, so there's a couple different methods for the closure for the eyeglass case. The first one is the Purl snap, and let me show you how to install that. So there's a few different manufacturers that make tools to insert Purl snaps. Cam Snaps is one of them. I have a great Cam tabletop press. I find the most expensive as well as being effective is the snap setter tool. And if you're interested in that, just check the link in the description and you can find a tool if you don't already have one. This tool just comes in 3 different pieces and it makes it really easy to install the snap. Okay, so on the smaller piece, I'm going to install the female half of the magnetic snap. So the female half of the Purl snap is the one with the opening, and I'm using a cap set, so this has like a cap finish on one side. Okay, so if you're using a set like this, the cap will go centered on top of the marking that you made. So my cap has prongs in it, and I'm just going to insert these through the wrong side of the fabric. Just like that. So if I flip it over, I feel the prongs coming through the fabric. So this is the piece that I would set on top of the bottom portion of the tool. So the bottom portion of the snap setter tool has sort of a circular indentation. I'm just going to set that cap right in that indentation. Okay, now comes the second part of the tool, which is just the flat piece with the 2 openings cut out, and that just goes directly on top. And finally, the female portion of the Purl snap goes last on top of the right side of the fabric. So the female portion on my snap sort of has like a flower shape is what I like to think of it as. So I'm just going to place that with the flower shape facing up and then finish off with the last piece of the tool. So you can go ahead and use a hammer. I'm using this snap setter hammer, which is handy because it has different sizes of screws inside. But I'm just going to go ahead and hammer that into place. So when I remove the snap setter tool, the female portion of the of the Purl snap should be installed, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so for the male portion of the Purl snap, that's going to go through the right side of the fabric in the marking that I made. So I'm going to place that cap through the right side of the fabric, which means the male half is going to go through the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, so I've got my cap situated. Again, I'm going to open my tool back up. Place that cap inside the cutout in the bottom of the tool. Follow that up with the second piece of the snap setter tool, and then finally the male portion of the Purl snap will be with the nub facing up. There we go. Okay, again, bring out the hammer tool. Okay, and there's the male half of that Purl snap installed. Okay, regardless of which closure method that you decided to use, the sewing part will be the same no matter if you're using the Velcro or the Purl snap. Okay, so grab both of your pieces, place the larger one wrong side facing up, and I'm going to place the smaller piece right side facing up. And you want to make sure that the edges are aligned. It only goes a certain way, so if you'll notice, it doesn't fit nicely on what is the top of the eyeglass case. So it only fits on one half. And I'm going to go ahead and use some Wonder Clips to pin these together. Again, make sure your edges are aligned. Okay, then I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew around the entire outer edge using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Another closure technique instead of that purl snap is to use Velcro, which is also known as hook and loop closure. So I'm using Velcro that is sticky back, which means it's not a sew-in, it has an adhesive on it that you just press down. And this Velcro is 3/4 of an inch in width. Okay, so I went ahead and cut 2 little squares of Velcro. They're each 3/4 of an inch long, so it's a 3/4 of an inch square. And I have my pieces already marked with the snap placement. So on this smaller piece, I marked the dot on the right side of the fabric, and on the larger one, I marked on the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and take the softer piece of the Velcro first, remove the paper backing to it, and I'm going to stick this down centered on top of the dot that I made on the right side of the fabric. Now I'm going to take the second piece of Velcro, so this is the piece that feels harder and scratchier. Again, remove the paper, and this is going to go against the wrong side of the fabric on the larger piece. One final method is for adding strips of Velcro instead. So I cut a strip of each that is 4.5 inches long, and I've got both of my fabric pieces. Again, they're marked with the snap placement. So on the small piece, I've marked the snap placement on the right side of the fabric, and on the larger piece, I've marked it on the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to grab my Velcro that feels softer and apply that one first. I'll remove that paper backing, and then it gets stuck to the right side of the fabric, directly centered on top of the snap placement. Okay, finally I'll take that second half of the Velcro. This is the piece that is rough, and this will be applied to the wrong side of the fabric, again centered on the snap placement. Okay, I'm using a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. You can also use a 3 millimeter stitch length for some slightly longer stitches. If you're using cork fabric, depending on the climate, you can usually get away with using your regular sewing machine foot. Otherwise, you can use either a Teflon foot or a walking foot. Okay, now your case is finished and ready to be holding your eyeglasses or sunglasses. I also made one of the eyeglasses with both layers, 2 pieces of fabric sewn wrong sides together first before attaching the closure and then sewing the sides and the bottom. So that's another option in case you didn't want the lining of the cork showing on the inside. Thanks so much for sewing along with me. I can't wait to see your finished eyeglass case. Be sure to join my Facebook group and post a photo of your finished eyeglass case there. And remember, if I can do it, so can you.